After a few years of castles and cathedrals, Nan and I decided to try something entirely different. We signed on with Overseas Adventure Travel for a 3-week adventure in Thailand and Myanmar during January of this year. We landed in Bangkok, took a couple of days to get acclimated, and then flew to Yangon, Rangoon, to start our 6-day pre-trip extension in Myanmar. Myanmar, Burma, has a population of about 40 million, spread over an area slightly smaller than Texas. Our Myanmar trip leader was the engaging, energetic, and knowledgeable Sai, who is also an avid amateur photographer and particularly helpful in identifying photo ops. Chuck rounded out our Myanmar touring foursome. He was a boon companion with a keen eye, a good camera, and many amusing stories. Naypyidaw has been the capital of Myanmar since 2006. The former capital, Yangon, literally end of strife, is the country's largest city with a population of over 5 million and the country's most important commercial center. This reclining Buddha was our introduction to Yangon and Buddhism. It is one of the most revered images of Buddha in Myanmar and, at 217 feet, one of the largest. Reclining Buddhas represent the Buddha's last illness just before he reached nirvana. The feet of the reclining Buddha are inscribed with 108 distinguishing marks to remind viewers that Buddha is greater than the inanimate, animate, and spiritual worlds. It is believed by the devout that he was born with these marks. This food will be given to the monks who come to honor Buddha with devotion and chants. Modern faithful may even indulge in a modern expression of their devotion. This picture of a picture is not very clear, but it does give you a feel for the size and beauty of the Shwedagon Pagoda platform, which sits atop a hill overlooking Yangon. The platform contains a marvelous array of buildings and artifacts, but the main attraction is the 325-foot Shwedagon Pagoda, aka the Great Dragon Pagoda or the Golden Pagoda. This is the most sacred pagoda in Myanmar because it is believed to contain relics of the 4 previous pagodas of the present Kalpa, that is, the period of time between the creation and recreation of a world or universe. This is a panoramic view of the interior of the complex, which gives you a feel for the opulence and the crowds appreciating this iconic landmark. That lovely gold color you see comes from an incredible amount of real gold. According to legend, the pagoda was constructed more than 2,600 years ago. However, historians and archaeologists maintain the original pagoda was built between the 6th and 10th centuries. The crown is encrusted with 5,448 diamonds and 2,317 rubies, and the whole thing is topped off with a 76-carat diamond. Planetary posts surround the pagoda. Most Burmese believe the day they were born has great influence on their life and karma. This belief comes from the influence of the Hindi Brahmins, who worked as royal astrologers in the early Burmese royal courts. So when a person goes to a pagoda to pay homage to Lord Buddha, they also do merit by offering water, flour, incense, and lighted candles at the planetary post that governs their day. You can share the merit of any good deeds by striking one of the many bells provided for the meritorious devout and the tourists. I was born on Thursday, and here I am improving my karma by pouring water on the Buddha at the Thursday corner. Hard to believe you can improve your karma with the sign of the rat, but what do I know? There are 2 huge bells at the Shwedagon platform. This one is officially named the Maha Tasada Ganda Bell, which means great 3-tone sweet sound, but it is better known as King Tharawadi's bell after its 19th century donor. We are looking at some 42 tons of bronze and 44 pounds of gold. This view gives you a feel for the incredible complexity and beauty of the Shwedagon platform buildings. These devout youngsters are responding to a Buddhist monk. Don't know the message, but he does have the kids' attention. Yellowish stuff on their faces is made from the bark of the Tanaka tree and is used throughout Myanmar to protect the skin and as a beauty aid. Don't know this monk's message either, but I recognize the medium. This monastic school provides orphan boys and girls with a home and monastic and academic classes from first grade through high school. The school is open to all comers, as you can see from this list of attendees for last year. Myanmar has 135 officially recognized ethnic groups, many unrecognized ethnic groups, and a bewildering diversity of languages. Most of the food for the school is donated, as it is for all monks and nuns. We see the food here being distributed by people who probably contributed it. These young nuns are chanting their thanks before enjoying their meal, accompanied by one of the many strays hoping for a handout. The British seized Rangoon and all of Lower Burma in the Second Anglo-Burmese War of 1852 and subjugated all of Burma by 1885. The colonial-style High Court, Emmanuel Baptist Church, and Yangon City Hall border Maha Bandula Park, which was dedicated in 1867. According to one source, in its heyday, colonial Yangon had public services and infrastructure on par with London. Tourists and vendors do enjoy the park. The tall structure on the right is Independence Monument. It replaced a statue of Queen Victoria and commemorates Burmese independence from the British in 1948. The park and the legendary Strand Hotel are within a block of each other on the banks of the Rangoon River. The hotel opened in 1901, is still in operation, and still elegant, as you can see from this view of the lobby. Dala Township lies just across the Yangon River from downtown Yangon, and despite its proximity, is still largely rural and undeveloped. There is no bridge, but there is a very large ferry, leaving from a dock near the Strand Hotel and crossing about every 20 minutes. The Yangon skyline from the ferry. Get your delicious watermelon here. Disembarking at the Dala terminal. A first look at a local souvenir shop and one of the main streets of Dala. Saddled up and ready to ride. And away we go. All right, ring the bell. Still carrying water the way they have for hundreds of years, only the buckets are different. There are two major reservoirs. This one is for drinking water, the other is for laundry. Kids greeted us enthusiastically all along the road, with an occasional high five as we passed. An upscale house. And a fisherman's house with his nets drying in front. Fishing boats with the city skyline in the background. We share the road. The local grocery store. We visited a small family-run business that makes fish chips for the restaurants in Yangon.
For 100 leaf of this, it sells for $2. So they're going to go to restaurants in the city and shop this biggest spring roll. Sample this bar.
The fish chip matriarch and her grandson. After the fish chip factory, we stopped for a few minutes and watched a local dance troupe and band perform. Sunset on the Yangon River as we crossed back to the city. Farewell to Yangon and on to Bagan, the capital of the kingdom of Pagan from the 9th to 13th centuries. This kingdom first unified the regions that became Myanmar. Built in 1057, Shwesan Dao Pagoda is 328 feet tall and one of the tallest pagodas in Myanmar. It has 55 big steps up and down, but affords a great view of the surrounding area. Only bare feet are allowed, as is the case in most temples and pagodas in Myanmar. During Pagan's height, between the 11th and 13th centuries, over 10,000 Buddhist temples, pagodas, and monasteries were constructed, and we had a great overview of some of this religion-inspired landscape from the viewing terrace midway up Shwesan Dao. This symmetrical masterpiece, built in 1105 AD and lovingly restored after a 1975 earthquake, was strongly influenced by Indian architecture and has served as a model for many succeeding Myanmar temples. A tourist-eye view of the gilded corncob-style stupa topped by the umbrella-like Thai, the status symbol found topping almost all Myanmar stupas. Along with many stone sculptures and plaques inside the temple are 4 different massive gilded teak Buddhas, each facing an ordinal direction. This is Gautama, facing west, and Kakasana, facing north. The 4 Buddhas help make the point that, in at least one Buddhist sect, there are multiple Buddhas in multiple kalpas or Buddhist life cycles. Nothing like a horse-drawn carriage ride through the archaeological zone for a more up-close and personal view of some of these marvelous old structures. Notice who holds the whip. The 12th century That Bin Yu Temple. At 201 feet, it is the tallest temple in Myanmar. 2 of the lesser pagodas showing similarity of form and difference in style. The ravages of time and earthquakes produced these leaning towers. A little local color is seen from a horse-drawn carriage. The inter-village bus service making a stop. After our carriage ride, we visited the small nearby town of Yang Yu with its large, colorful, and lively market. How's this for an ad that even an American tourist can understand? Looks to me like she got her money's worth. The Bagan area is a major center for lacquerware production. Design is limited only by the artist's imagination, but lacquerware colors and treatments are limited. After a brief introduction by the proprietor, here showing how a bowl starts as a bamboo basket, we watch the workers do their thing. These boys are filtering the sap. First step in the process. Once a good lacquerware base is built up onto a bamboo form, a design can be copied onto the item. This is a step where they excise the design into the lacquerware. Hand polishing is performed throughout the process and as the finishing touch. Everstand product is of such high quality that the proprietor and his wife were among the craftspeople invited to meet Obama when he visited Yangon in 2014. Cy and Nancy discussed the finer points of making palm sugar and palm wine with our hosts before lunch. Turns out, palm juice ferments on its own and can reach an alcohol content of up to 10% in just 24 hours. After lunch, we got a demonstration of how to farm palms.
Fruit is considered as a female palm. Okay? As you crack this, inside of this, you can get kind of jello stuff in it, and you can eat that. It's a meal. So when you plant the palm trees, if you upside down like that, a pole, and this is it means male, and you turn the other side, it's female, and slice this, and the sap, the juice would come out, and he would tie the clay pots around it, and that's when what the juice and the sap will go inside of the pot.
Does he move the ladder from tree to tree?
Yes, and it's also subsistent farming. All these tree trunks, like palm leaf, they're used to making it happen.
The boys enjoyed the pub before, during, and after lunch. We visited a small village of farms and shops that let us glimpse the old and new ways of daily life in rural Myanmar. For example, no running water, but some really nice cars and satellite dishes for some others. Farming is a mix of old and new, exemplified by this wooden-wheeled hay wagon pulled by oxen and this farmyard with its fairly modern tractor. Crafts and tools are pretty much the same as they have been for hundreds of years, but business does seem to be picking up. One sign of improving economics is the improving housing. Village life includes cane ball, and Sai shows us how to dress for action and how to play cane ball, which is a good sport and a way to impress the village girls.
In India and China, so you do this, do that. So this is gentleman style, and this is just normal cotton, and it's a typical. So I make a ball knot here. So this is, I go to walk, and now I want to go playing games, kicking soccer ball or ping ball. So I would take this up, roll around it, make like an elephant
Trunk.
and then roll it back here, lift it up on both sides, here back here, and tuck it in. So this is a short. So I can now move my kite and
At the end of the day, a good life in the village can still be a corral full of animals. The end of our day was dinner under the stars and a show at a local hotspot. It all starts with the band warming up. There were pretty girls singing and dancing. There were marionettes. And there were clowns. On our way to Mandalay, we said goodbye to Bagan with this beautiful early morning view of hot air balloons over the magnificently refurbished 11th century Shwe Zagan Pagoda. A short flight from Bagan brought us to the last royal capital of Burma. In early 1857, King Mindon founded a new royal capital at the foot of Mandalay Hill on the occasion of the 2400th Jubilee of Buddhism. Mahamuni Temple, home of one of the most sacred and venerated images of Buddha in Myanmar, was constructed as part of the new capital. The impressive halls of the temple are beautifully decorated. This 13-foot Buddha image is now covered by about 6 inches of gold leaf, which is applied leaf by leaf every day by the faithful in the belief that it will bring them great merit. If we watch how the hands change from 1901 to 1935 in this image, and from 1984 to 2010 in the next image, we can appreciate how much the added gold leaf has blurred the outline of the Buddha over the years. Which brings us to, where does the gold leaf come from? Basically, you start with a small piece of solid gold, hammer it until it can be cut into 6 pieces, each of which can be hammered even thinner. After several steps and hours of hammering, the result is a very thin sheet of gold which is carefully cut and stacked on special non-stick rice paper for packaging and sale. This monastery is the single remaining major structure of the original royal palace. In 1880, King Thibaw Min dismantled and relocated the apartment because he believed it to be haunted by his father's spirit. Constructed from teak, the monastery is known for its carvings of Buddhist myths, which adorn its doorways, walls, and roofs. These 3 young novice monks from Shan province are 16, 9, and 14 years old. They just entered the monastery school, and all 3 start as kindergartners, since they do not yet speak English. Kuthadao Pagoda was built in 1857 as part of the new royal city of Mandalay. I found this aerial shot of Kuthadao on the web, and it gives you a feel for the extent of the grounds. The king left a great work of merit within the pagoda by having the entire Tipitaka, the Pali Canon of the Theravada Buddhism, set in stone for posterity. These are a few of the 739 stupas containing the stone tablets comprising the world's largest stone book. Each tablet was originally inscribed with gold, but ink was substituted in the early 1900s when the pagoda was restored after desecration by the English in the late 1800s. We ended our first day in Mandalay admiring the view from fabled Mandalay Hill. And admiring another fine Myanmar sunset. We began our last day in Myanmar at the world's largest jadeite market. Jadeite looks like jade, but is a completely different mineral and is more rare and more valuable. Myanmar produces on the order of 70% of all the jadeite in the world, and this market is a big part of that trade. Translucence is a key quality, and it is accessed by shining a light through the specimen. 2 examples of Chinese interest and influence in the area: 2 young men playing a Chinese dice game, and this truck designed and built in China. This is a local gas station where "fill her up" can be done almost as fast as saying it. We started our day on the Irrawaddy, watching donors distribute food to the monks. According to Sai, unemployment is around 30%, and there are some 80,000 monks in Myanmar. Some of the donors' kids get in on the action. Life on the banks of the river seemed pretty hard. There were many colorful boats for hire, and we walked the plank to board one for a leisurely tour upriver with life on board, much more pleasant than along the banks of the river. Irrawaddy is Myanmar for elephant, a fitting name for a big river that Sai calls the Myanmar Mississippi. During the rainy season, the river floods, and during the drier and cooler months, the banks are lined with temporary linear villages, and the river is a very busy place of farming and various kinds of commerce. These people are taking a little break from gathering firewood. Rafts of bamboo on the way to market are a common sight. Filling sandbags.
Sand in the bag, so they'll have to.
And of course, there's a lot of traffic on the river. Our upriver destination was Mingun Village with its unfinished Mingun Pagoda, seen here as we approach the village, and the unique Hysan Bayum Pagoda, which we will see a little later. Life on this side of the river was not much better than in Mandalay, but the local transportation was a bit more interesting, including this example of Chinese influence in this area. Kids all over the world have at least some of the same interests. Now called the world's largest pile of bricks, Mingun Pagoda was begun in 1790 and abandoned a few years later when, allegedly, the king became convinced he would die if it was completed. With a planned height of 490 feet, it would tower above the Shwedagon Pagoda, which is a mere 344 feet. What has survived is the Mingun Bell, which is still the second largest bell in the world. This gives you a feel for the size. And Nan rings the bell for your listening pleasure. Hysan Bayum Pagoda was built in 1816 by Bagyadao in memory of his first consort and cousin, Princess Hysan Bayum, or Princess White Elephant, who had died in childbirth in a site nearby. Of most interest is the pagoda's great departure from Myanmar pagoda design norms. It is based on descriptions of the mythical Sulamani Pagoda on Mount Muru, with the lower parts of the pagoda representing the mountain. As you can see, it also provides a backdrop for some great photo ops. This footbridge is the longest wooden bridge in Myanmar and is constructed of teak planks that have withstood the elements for over 2 centuries. It stretches almost 3/4 of a mile over Shallow Thong Thaman Lake. Our late afternoon bridge walk provided some needed exercise and a wonderful variety of sights, such as these fishermen, a lady selling birds, a lakeside hut, and lovers posing on the shore. The big show is sunset, and people took to the boats to get the best view. You can see why Sai says this is the most photographed tree in Myanmar. And this seems like a good time to say goodbye. It was a marvelous 6 days for us, and I hope you enjoyed sharing it with us.